Welcome back, everyone, to another edition of Veteran Nation Live. We are a minute early this week. See, we're on top of stuff.
See, I'm starting to think that maybe I'm not the problem. Maybe it's Kahanu.
Oh, yeah, he's not here, so we can blame him.
You can blame. I mean, I would have blamed him anyway. So,
that's
you said welcome everyone, and I'm looking, and our chat is just like there's 5,000 messages in the chat by now. So you must have told everybody that it was just you and I, and they said, you know what, we're just not. It's not
they're
worth it.
like, well, if it's just those two.
Oh, there we have people. We have people now.
They're finding us.
Good
afternoon, you guys. Good afternoon. Well, for me, it's morning still. So
yeah, it is. Yeah, it's just afternoon for me. So yeah, it's always confusing whenever we have when we start at 12:30 Central, because we've got people that watch from literally everywhere, and it's a mix of good morning, good afternoon, good, like, no, just say hi at this point. Just say hello.
I'm just making sure that this is out public because I'm gonna share it to the group because that'll help more people find us. So I talked about it on Coffee with the Skipper, but I am persona non grata on X.
Yeah, I heard you saying that the other day. So.
Yeah, they grabbed an old tweet. I got mass reported by a bunch of butthurt liberals, and yeah, they grabbed an old tweet from months ago and reported it. So I'm suspended. But I took the time to build the audience there, and I was paying for the premium so that we could stream there.
Yeah, I bet you're not going to now.
It really pissed me off, but we will be streamed on X again. Patriot 91 News wants to stream us, so I just need to sit down with them and log them in through Restream, and then we're gonna be on. They have 52,000 followers, I think.
That'll get a few views.
Yeah, we'll get much more people, which,
I just realized something as we're sitting here, by the way.
Uh-oh.
If you look at the Veteran Nation image on the screen, if I sit just right, it looks like my shirt lines up. Do you see it?
It's a continuation.
Do you see it?
I do.
If I gotta sit just right, right there. Well, hold on.
What did your shirt say?
Defend the guard.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so got this.
There we go. I'll have to order me one of those.
Well, I got mine when we had Dan McKnight when I was covering the Libertarian Party state convention in 2024. Dan McKnight came to speak, and he gave me the shirt. He gave me stickers and patches.
I just got stickers from Coop, and I've got to put them. I've got my little my laptop, and I've got obviously Veteran Nation, and I've got Mill to Vet on there, so I got to put Coop sticker on there.
I don't get the sticker thing.
It's just an easy, cheap way to get your stuff out there to market. Georgie chose violence today.
That's fine. Georgie's, she's short. That's all I have. Short person syndrome. So, yeah. So, hey, what do you think of the Trump ordering 2 nuclear submarines closer to the coast of Russia after Medved's? I didn't see anything utterly provocative that justifies it. So,
I'm wondering if they're seeing any other type of intelligence. Everyone who's like, "Oh, Trump is in bed with Russia," he's really not. He doesn't hate Russia. I don't hate Russia.
There's
Um,
why should we? That's a holdover from
yeah, like if you told me,
it's a holdover from manufactured reasons to expand the American empire after World War II. Is all that
yeah,
is.
totally agree. And Russia could be an ally of ours, a much closer ally, but some people just have it in their head to create animosity. If you ask me who the U.S.'s enemies are, Russia would they would probably be in the top five, but not at the top of that. Like they would maybe come in fourth or fifth. Uh, China, North Korea, absolutely number one and two.
I have a different number one, but
I mean, there's a lot that could fit up there. Um, I will say this: I did find it very funny. Uh,
hello
it,
everyone, by
it-
the way. Skipper.
what's that?
We're neglecting the chat. We're not saying hi to everyone, but
During Veteran Nation Live, I don't greet everyone because we normally have a guest and we go into it. So
right.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't. Anyway, you were saying before I interrupted.
Oh, just that I paid attention very closely to the Indian Pakistani, the little war that they had, uh, because of what that means to the U.S., China, and several others. And let me just say, Pakistan got embarrassed, and it was all because they were using Chinese military equipment. That most of that equipment is based on stolen American technology and then implemented very badly. And when after the first couple days of the war, when we finally you got through the propaganda, oh, the Chinese equipment was horrible, and China is currently in panic over that.
Yeah, China's threat to the United States is really it's not even a military threat, and I the saber rattling that takes place in Washington D.C. and in the crowds of people um, who are shills for the military industrial complex that saber rattle about China and how they're this massive military threat and we need to watch out for them and we have to uh, be willing to take war to them, especially over Taiwan. I'm like, well, first of all, I don't. The only reason Taiwan's important to us is because we've invested all of our time in and money
Mhm.
in them building our microchips, which is just asinine. Like shock, United States makes the deep state and leaders make asinine decisions over something from whether it's oil or microchips, but we could very easily be making microchips here in the U.S.
Mhm.
I, we have the technology to be able to do it, and it, the threat that China poses to the U.S. It's not military, it's not even technological. It's on a level as they become, ironically, as they become more of a free market society, they they pose more of an economic threat to us just because of how much of our manufacturing we have turned over to them and the fact that that has
Yeah.
dumped billions and billions of US dollars into the Chinese market, which is now allowing them to buy up thousands and thousands of acres of land in the US. And that I don't know how we go about controlling that because I don't like some of the things that I'm seeing now where while I understand the concerns, I don't like the idea that as an American, we have to basically have all of our sales of private property have to be run now. They want them to be run through the federal government to make sure that the person buying that is not an agent of China. And
Well,
go
it's
ahead.
interesting because we actually have precedent for that. There, we used to have the Chinese Exclusion Act, which the Supreme Court has ruled was constitutional. Um, So we do have mechanisms that if we wanted to put them in place, we could. Uh, we're actually one of the few countries that if anyone from another country can come here and start a business. Uh, Most countries, businesses within the country have to be at least a portion owned by someone who's a citizen.
Yeah, what you're saying is accurate on a get. In other words, from the second you step into the country, no one's going to stop you from running a business in the US. But there are countries where, so Germany is a really good example. Although they have really dropped the ball on their immigration policy, because Germany's immigration policy up till about 15, 20 years ago was if you're going to immigrate to Germany, whether you're going to be an expat from the United States or somewhere else, you had to bring enough money to be self-sustaining for 5 years
Mhm.
and literally had to be able to live for 5 years on your own with the money that you brought or money that you had bankrolled. Nothing would preclude you during that time from being able to start a business there or get involved or invest in a business. You just couldn't be a dependent of the German state.
Mhm.
And now a lot of that has changed. They just let everybody in, like so much the rest of Europe. But um, so you look at like, is it I think Switzerland? Uh, you can't even immigrate to Switzerland. You know,
Mhm.
it's like you could be there, but you cannot. I don't think they allow immigration the way we picture immigration. And Poland just really ramped up their controls on immigration, especially from Africa and the Middle East.
It's funny because I was in Munich in 2015 and then went back in, I believe it was 2019. And there were significant changes due to
Mhm.
the immigration policies just back then. So I can
Yeah.
only imagine what it's like today.
Well, which is why so many people, even though it came to fruition, so many people opposed the European Union because they knew that
Mm.
once the European Union came into place, it was gonna, unfortunately, open the borders of all these other European, all these countries in Europe who are part of the Union,
Mhm.
and it it- it's really stolen away the idea of national sovereignty. Um, and so here's an example I'll use. You and I have talked about birthright citizenship. If I remember correctly, we were both opposed to it. The way
I
it's
mean,
the way
I
it's handled now.
yes.
Yeah, where
I think there needs
you just get here, have a kid, and all of a sudden your kid's an American. That's not at all how it was intended to go.
I have no problem with it if they have come here under a legal status. Um,
Right. And they're how do I want to say this? That's true birthright citizenship but I don't think it's in keeping with the intent of the 14th Amendment at the same
yeah.
time. Those people need to become naturalized citizens of the United States. Where was I going with this? Oh, nations. So national sovereignty. The distinguishing difference between the US as a republic and all of the European countries, that we're dealing with, especially Western European countries, are Western European countries have a national identity. And I know that sounds, people are like, whoa, whoa, wait a minute, national identity. No, they have national identity. Like you're British, there are key distinctives about being British. It's not just an accent. There are key distinctives about being British that come from like even genetics. There are key distinctives. I mean, ask the Brits and the Scots and the Irish how they feel about each other. We just hear British Isles. They don't. They do not see themselves that way. And the Welsh are even worse about that as far as how um, very distinctive they see themselves. And even Isle of Man, which is like nobody really knows what to do with them. But uh so like the Swedes and this in the Norwegians and the Danes, all part of that region that we would consider to be, that northern Western Europe aspect, where we really, see the Scandinavian Viking culture come out of.
Hmm.
All very distinctive national identity. Denmark, very clear national identity. Sweden, very clear national identity. Denmark, a very clear national identity. Germany, very clear national identity. Italians, mostly a national identity. Uh, uh, and so their national sovereignty is at risk in a way that the United States cannot understand, because there is no nation. See, the United States is not a nation. We're a republic. There is no nationality of American. And so when people in the US get really bent out of shape about, well, they're threatening our nationality. Well, what's your nationality? Like, you might be American, but that's not a nationality. And so we do not understand immigration, the impact of immigration on the US in the same way that the Europeans are starting to come to understand, because they are literally losing their national identity.
Hmm.
And there's a reality in which European countries are white. I mean, look, that they're white. They are white. There are, like, African countries are black. They have each, now nations in Africa are new by and large, in the way that we understand them. You can't pick a nation in Africa right now that doesn't have some sort of European identity on it, because of how the countries were formed when Europeans colonized most of Africa. And they still have national sovereignty in a lot of cases, because you see that, like, so with Sudan, with the civil war in Sudan. Northern and Southern Sudanese people do not know each other in
Yeah.
the sense of their cultures. They're completely different.
Hmm.
They're absolutely different. And even South Africa as a country is European in its formation, but there are hundreds and hundreds of different nationalities that are native to that region of Africa, that have no cultural distinctions that are at all identical. And so the US looks at Europe and goes, "What's the problem? Come on." Well, because we have always been a country of mutts. We have always been a country that has been, for lack of better terminology, diverse, not diversification and cultural diversity aspects, but we've always been diverse. And it has always been the case, when people came to the US, they still managed to break off into these enclaves of their own people.
Hmm.
Little Italy, little Tokyo, little China. You've got, I mean, there are little Jewish enclaves and German enclaves, and so it's like my grandmother on my dad's side, she grew up speaking Norwegian in the United States. She did not speak any English until she basically got out of high school, when she aged out of high school, in the sense of she ended up not graduating, but
I grew up near
she had to learn English.
I grew up near Amish that still spoke German.
Oh boy, yeah. They, especially when they don't want you to know that they're talking about you. So we have, so when we talk about national sovereignty in the United States, it doesn't mean the same thing to us as it does to um, actual Europeans in European countries, European nations. And like, the Germans really don't like being called German. It's just like the Japanese do not like being called Japs or Japanese because that's our name for them. I saw a English comedian the other day saying, "Hey, look, we're gangster. We just go to countries and change their names and then go do something about it." You know. So I just, as much of a problem as I have with unfettered illegal immigration into the US, we do not understand the impact that it has on the Europeans in the same way that they understand it. And joining the European Union has almost destroyed their ability to be their own countries, which
Mhm.
was what the goal was. And so when people talk about having a North American Union, you know, between, you still hear people talk about it, both on the left and the right. Well, we need a North American Union between Canada and Mexico. Like, first of all, the last thing I want is Canadians voting in United States politics.
Right.
Like, period. Like, uh, I'd almost rather the Mexicans be voting in our political. Like, they have better values than the Canadians. No offense to our Canadian friends, but the irony of that is the vast majority of people you hear arguing, like I had, believe it or not, I managed, Royce White actually showed up for the show on Friday night, which I did not think was going to happen.
Mm.
I was about an hour in and he actually made it in. And I'm going to isolate that part of the conversation where and talk about it a little bit. But he advocated, yeah, actually, I do think we should annex Canada. And I'm like, what? No, why? What? Like, that's the worst. Like, first of all, the fact that Trump even suggested it, and now you're out here advocating for it because Trump suggested it.
It would make more sense for us to annex Mexico, to be honest.
Mhm.
But I think Trump was just saying that just to be provocative and just try to get people in Canada to have a reaction. Now, I could see French Canadians wanting to be a part of the US, and there has been that talk about Quebec becoming a state.
Why would you say Quebec? Because they tend to be, Quebec tends to be the problem in Canada politically. I mean, they are
Because
the
they don't get
leftists.
along with other Canadians. They think they'll get along with Americans more. I don't think it would work out the way they want to, but they have talked about leaving Canada and joining the US.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I do not advocate at all for adding anybody else to the union at all. Georgie's worried that you're not talking enough.
What? Yeah, like what am I supposed to say? He's saying everything, and I'm agreeing with most of it. Like I don't think there was really anything you said that I didn't agree with.
I don't know. She's used to us arguing with somebody. Like, once again, see, when Kahanu's not here, we start early and we don't argue. So Kahanu, if you're watching this on replay AVA, we now know who's at fault. So
I got bugs in here. There it is. Did I get it? Yep, I got it.
are you
See?
okay? Are the bugs in the room with you right now, Skipper?
Yeah, I wiped it off, but I had one on my hand. So because I'm growing all this fruit, I've got raspberries, I've got lemons, I've got limes growing in my house. I'm getting these little they're not fruit flies, they're little like gnats.
That would be more than likely a fruit fly of some sort.
I do want to get into the case that you've been talking about.
I love it's my case. Skipper's going to make me talk about it now. I thought we'd save that towards the end, but it's fine.
We can save it. We can save it. But I just do want to get into it. But we can.
We can. Let's talk. Do you really? So now that we've kind of addressed a far-reaching idea of all this national stuff and bigger threats, and who should be able to own property here in the US and whether or not the government should be able to tell you who you can and cannot sell your property to. Um, and who our bigger, like I said, who our bigger threats are and what they are. And my view being China is not a military threat; it's kind of an economic threat.
Yes.
Um, when you look at Trump's promise to end the war between Russia and Ukraine, what was it on day one? I'm waiting for day one, but um, how do you feel? I hate that terminology. What's your perception of this new? Because this is, I mean, it really is an escalation. Not only have we escalated the amount of money and equipment that we're either directly providing to the Ukraine,
Hmm.
but we've encouraged them and said, here, we'll give you even better equipment so you can start making more and more forays into striking deeper into Russian territories. And now, you have Trump ordering these nuclear subs off the coast of Russia. Like, does that worry you at all with some of these military decisions that has been making? And
No, I don't think he. I definitely don't think he wants an escalation. Um, Despite these actions, I don't think he wants an escalation. I think he's dealing with a reality of both Ukraine and Russia want this fight, and that's the problem. Um, and sadly, it's going to have to get really bad before it gets better. That's my assessment of that conflict. Uh, Neither side really wants peace. They're still, and a lot of it is you have two leaders who are traditional Asiatic Russo leaders, meaning they have to have a strong, they have to be viewed as a strong leader. If not, the people are not going to follow them. So they have to have a victory. If not, they're willing to, they're willing to risk it all, type of thing. Um, so that's the problem, is you have that on both sides. I don't see either side willing to back down at this point. So it's gonna have to get very bloody before either side will uh, come to peace talks seriously.
do you, do you think though? Because we've been hearing from the beginning that Russia's intent from the very beginning of this was to conquer all of Ukraine, and my argument's been, knowing what I know about Russian tactics and Russians, actual military strength, they could have been in Kiev within weeks of
Mhm.
starting that war. But we don't see Russia actually making any moves to expand the territory they're currently holding.
I
And
think that's a couple reasons why. I think I agree with you. I don't think the necessarily want is there. I think they have the areas they want, and now they're primarily defending. Uh, like if they
what they
advance,
hold, yeah, they're defending what they hold.
yeah, if they advance, it's just because they have what they want and they want to create a bigger buffer. Um, but I also think Russia had not been in a conflict since Serbia, like a real military conflict. So I think they very quickly got outed that there were gaps in their military tactics and leadership.
Well, they
Some
were
of their
still they were still using, for lack of better terminology, Cold War,
Mhm.
1980s style campaign that was heavily reliant on, armor divisions overwhelming and then being able to come in and sweep up with light infantry.
and their artillery was exposed too, that they
Yeah.
have not kept up with American advancements in artillery. Uh, our HIMARS were just destroying them. So with that, I think that
No, they weren't our HIMARS, Skipper. They were Ukrainian HIMARS purchased by European countries and given to Ukraine.
true,
And
but
and then
I,
we also just gave billions and billions of dollars to Ukraine to buy the HIMARS that we were selling to European countries to give to.
Yeah. We actually, we give them that money, but that money is housed at the State Department and then given to American companies to build the HIMARS, which then get shipped over. That's how that all works. It's really fascinating to see how foreign military sales cases work. I actually went through a whole course on it, but they were exposed militarily, and now they are, because they've been in this war for multiple years. It's starting to drain their supply chain and logistics. So now they're getting to the point where their stockpile that they had now is dwindling and going back to Pakistan, Russia, or Pakistan, India. Pakistan had to go to China to buy military supplies because there was no one else selling. Russia is not selling. And honestly, Russia has a 300-year history of selling to India. They've got pretty good um, a pretty good what I'll say thing with India. So Pakistan had, other than to bow down to U.S. pressure, China's the only person they can buy from, and but Russia, even if they wanted to buy from Russia, doesn't have a whole lot of a stockpile anymore.
Well, yeah, Russia's stockpiles are definitely down, and sadly, when you start to talk to people in the military that are in the know, now American stockpiles are also very low because of the amount that we have shipped off to both Israel and Ukraine alone. So, and people, I had somebody go, well, who cares if our HIMARS stockpiles are down? And I'm like, we could just build more. And I'm like, that's not how it works. It's not like the Army and the Marines and the Navy aren't out there. They don't have their own manufacturing facilities, folks, where we fired how many shells today? Oh, better up the amount of production back there at that naval production facility. That's
and for the people watching who don't know, they're like, HIMARS, what's that? It's an artillery shell that's GPS guided, so it turns your artillery into a sniper.
Yeah. It is. If you think of the very first Gulf War, think of Desert Storm for those of you that are old enough to have experienced that. The big thing everybody was talking about in the first Gulf War was the first fielding of multi MLRS, multi-launch rocket systems. So they were the big tractor trailer looking things that Skipper should find a video of MLRS. They'd big tractor trailer looking thing, and they would pull into spot. They'd get their location, they'd get their targeting, and then they would just lift up the back end and they would just fire all these rockets right off the back end of this system. So what HIMARS does is HIMARS takes, instead of triangulating and coordinating, HIMARS literally just takes basically the rocket and links the rockets that are being fired to GPS, and then precision guides them into their targets. And it's deadly, deadly accurate. And you can put pretty much any kind of warhead you want on that artillery piece. You can put anti-personnel, you can put basically low grade bunker busters for smaller reinforced targets. You can put anti-armor warheads on them. And so they're great. What we're also seeing for the first time, even compared to the United States' last 20 plus years of warfare, is the heavy use of drones between Russia and Ukraine, and not just for, targeting armor and buildings, but they're now using very, very small anti-personnel drones that can either be sent in to shoot or to blow up individual people. So they're
Drone warfare doctrine is being written in this war.
Mhm. So it's and I think this war in particular with the US being involved, that I I don't know, Skipper, I don't know if you'll agree with how I'm going to say this, but that more than anything should be worrying Americans personally. On a very personal level, we should be far less worried about an invasion. We should be far less worried about whether or not China's our enemy or Muslim terrorists coming in and strapping on a vest and blowing up a school. We need to be far more worried about lone wolves and radicalized individuals from a large swath of ideological backgrounds figuring out drone warfare.
Mhm.
I just I don't know if people really understand the idea that, and I'm not saying anything anybody else hasn't thought of, but you are far more of a sitting duck in a outdoor stadium at a football game or baseball game to a drone attack than you are to a mass shooter with a AR-15 or some other platform. If somebody really decided they wanted to do something damaging with a drone, it would make the Las Vegas shooting look like a walk in the park.
Mhm.
And I am shockingly surprised at how little has actually been done by government to eradicate drone use in the United States by private individuals. I'm just it tinfoil hat time. Georgie mentioned me looking cute in a tinfoil hat, so it's tinfoil hat time. The fact that they are not doing more tells me they don't want to do more because they want that potential out there. They want that reality out there. And they're not hitting it as hard as I really expected. That concerns me. It really does concern me.
Yeah, I think they even with the military, I'm not seeing a lot of discussions just about the drone warfare, let alone you're talking about drone terrorism. I'm not seeing a lot of discussions in DoD circles about it.
Yeah, I know people, well, they're not everybody who watches is plugged in. That's probably why they watch us, because they don't want to be plugged into it. They'll just like, well, let Skipper and TC and Kahanu talk about it. But yeah, it's very disturbing how very little silence there is about it. And like, I'm hearing people now talk about developing for personal use anti-drone technology for personal use. And we're talking about things as small as directionally aimed EMPs that function in a almost like pointing a net, like some sort of net gun at a flock of birds and being able to pull the trigger and shoot a net out over these birds as they're flying around. I've actually listened to people talk about the idea of using an EMP that can be directional and you being able to shoot down somebody's drone over your own property. Because people have shot people's drones down with shotguns. I think we talked about this a couple of years ago. I think we showed a video of a guy that shot down somebody's drone for flying it over his property and used a shotgun and shot it down. And like, that raised a lot of questions. Like, is that lawful? Is it lawful for you to shoot a drone down flying over your property? And what do you do if somebody does decide they want to go fly a drone around your property? Do you have any rights to the air that surrounds your house?
And this goes back to a lot of things I think that the government did wrong was when they said we own the airspace, we own the radio waves. Um, that's the official position of the U.S. government.
Yeah, you cannot operate anything outside of a CB
Mhm.
without a license.
Yep.
And they own the citizen band radio waves too. So
Mhm.
just think about that. They own radio waves. They just, and if we find out you're using them unlawfully, in other words, without our permission, you can go to prison.
Mhm.
What the? But I don't know. So what I mean, Skipper, how do you like? What do you do? What do you, like? So we have somebody watching that's dealing with an individual who's borderline psychotic.
Mhm.
Um,
He's not talking about me this time.
yeah. What if you have a stalker that has drones and they just decide they're gonna fly them around your property, or they're gonna follow you to work with them?
Mhm. Yeah.
Wait, like where does your privacy ends in public? We just have to admit that. But where is public?
Mhm.
So if you build a privacy fence around your yard, the courts, for lack of, I don't think every decision the court makes the decision right, lawful, or constitutional. The courts have made a lot of really bad decisions that are just patently unconstitutional when you explore them on their face. But if you build a privacy fence around your house, that by court decision, by constitutional law, cops cannot climb the privacy fence to look over your yard to see what you have in your yard. They are forbidden
Yeah.
from doing that. But if somebody has a drone, they can fly over your house and you can't do anything to stop them. So if you're laying out, nobody wants to see Skipper and I in our own yards laying out in the naked, getting a, naked sunbathing. But like you can't do anything about it. And those people could complain that you're indecently exposed in public. They really could, because they're just flying their drone. They weren't, So what measures do you think, Skipper, people should be allowed to take to protect their privacy on their own property? When it comes to things like drones. And there again, this started off with me, talking about the use of drones as a weapon. But we've got drones equipped with, I've seen drones equipped with guns.
Mhm.
Private people equipping their own drones with firearms just to go out and fly them around and see what they can do with it. But they also have them equipped with flamethrowers. There
Mhm.
are flamethrower equipped drones. You got a guy flying that around your property, starting your trees on fire, or, like threatening your house, and you got a stalker that's got access to that. Should I be able to shoot that down?
And I think there should be a buffer that a drone cannot come within so many feet of my house. Like they should have to stay above. There should be a ceiling.
Well, not a ceiling. Well, they should have a ceiling, but they should also have a deck.
Yeah. Yeah.
Look, I'm using flight terminology that I shouldn't be able to use. I don't know. I really do. I look at drone warfare across the world today, and I think we are. This is not a prediction, but I really do think we're less than 6 months away from somebody using one, whether it's a homegrown terrorist or somebody else using a drone in a very nefarious way to do a massive amount of damage. And that's the thing too, is to cause terror, you don't need to kill 50 people, 60 people,
Mhm.
1,000 people. You just have to be able to plant into people's minds, we can touch you anywhere you are. We can get you wherever you are at any time, no matter what. And you have one episode like that, and people's entire perspective on drones will change. And so like Rochester, Minnesota Police Department just launched a drone program completely paid for by the Mayo Clinic Foundation, by the way. Let that sink in. The Mayo Clinic Foundation is privately funding a public agency's
And
drone program.
getting back to the Supreme Court, if I build a privacy fence that's clearly for privacy, the police cannot look over it. But could
Mhm.
they put a drone to
Yep.
now take a look?
And that's how they pitched it too, was that they're not using this for investigations, and they're not using this to watch people. They're only using them in response to emergency situations. So I want everybody to just think about this. You've got a law enforcement agency that has its drones privately paid for by a nonprofit organization. And if you don't know who the Mayo Clinic is, I don't know what to tell you. If you're American and you don't know what the Mayo Clinic is, I would be shocked. If you're not an American and you don't know what the Mayo Clinic is, it is an incredibly large, very tentacled medical organization that started in Rochester, Minnesota, over 100 years ago. That this thing is just massively outgrown its capacity in the sense of what it really should be for. Is now funding public law enforcement to have this drone program to respond to emergencies. What in God's green earth is a drone going to do when you call up and say, "Hey, I'm having a heart attack," or "Hey, my neighbor and his wife are fighting. I just saw my neighbor punch her husband." What's a drone going to do? Like anybody that thinks that law enforcement having drones, those drones aren't going to be used to spy on you and get around your privacy concerns is just crazy. There's just absolutely no way that is not going to be abused to get around privacy restrictions
And
on law
their
enforcement.
attitude is better to beg forgiveness than to ask permission.
Um, yeah, it's very, very true. Um, I don't know. I'd be interested to hear what the viewers think of drones, and if any of them have had these concerns. Our viewers are paranoid enough; they probably thought of all of this years ago. But um, you said you wanted to talk a little bit about the fight now against uh, what was it?
Are you talking the NFA?
Yeah, National Firearms Act.
So we're seeing a lot of very, in my opinion, good decisions coming out of the courts about guns, where we're finally getting back to um, what the Second Amendment means, especially in lieu of the Heller, and then on top of that, the Bruin.
Mhm.
It's the Heller test, but now people are calling it the Bruin test because Bruin expanded on it a little bit. But
Well, for people that don't know, explain the Heller and then Bruin. Just very
so
brief,
the
10,000 foot
Heller
views, if you
said
will.
it set up the a test where you first have to look at the text of the Second Amendment to see if whatever case it is invoked by the text. If it's not clearly invoked by the text, then you go by history and tradition. And then in Bruin, they had to very specifically say, no, the history and tradition is pre, what was it, 1791.
Mhm.
So at the time of the founding. So whatever they did post, because a lot of the gun control advocates, they like to point to post Civil War, which
Mhm.
a lot of those laws were racist. Uh, they were designed to take guns away from freed slaves. So that's what they were
Well, they
basing their
they were
anti or their
twofold.
gun.
They were twofold. It was to keep the guns. There was a primary aspect of keeping the guns out of the hands of freed slaves, but also keeping guns out of the hands of anybody from the South.
Yes. So
Yeah.
they've heavily pointed to those as an example,
What do you
and
what do you
the
what are you
Supreme
being
Court has
distracted
rejected
by?
it. Hmm?
Who's distracting you?
Oh, it's uh, a messenger group. I think you're even in it, but it's blowing up right now. So I'm turning off notifications. Just taking me a little bit.
Ah. Ironically, a messenger group blowing up as we're talking about guns and drones being used in nefarious ways. So yeah, I'm just waiting for the Supreme Court to get back to the point where I can have my own cannons like private citizens used to be able to have. So I-
There we go. I'm finally there.
good lord, what do you got it like password protected and like bio protected and
No, I don't really use the messenger app too often on the iPad. It's just on there as a
oh,
backup.
I got you. So any Supreme Court decision that does not rule that I'm allowed to equip my vehicle with a cannon is not sufficient enough because they, people laugh, but you used to be able to have cannons on your
Yep.
property and cannons on your ships if you wanted them. And
And
I
that's
feel like that's a good idea.
there's a
You
lot
ain't
of
gonna
gun
come break into the
control.
house of a guy who's got an a military surplus M60 machine gun nest at his front door. You're just not gonna try.
There are gun rights advocates who believe you should be allowed to own automatic weapons. The NFA is what gives them the authority to limit it. So they are challenging the NFA. Will they be successful? I don't know. Um,
Very, very. I would say the odds of winning in the NFA case as far as fully automatic firearms is you can own fully automatic firearms in the United States. It's it's cost prohibitive
yeah,
and process prohibitive for most people. I think what's the last time I looked, it was multiple thousands of dollars to even apply
yeah.
for
I
the
think
NFA.
all told it's almost $5,000,
Yeah.
like the whole licensing process. Um, but there are things about the NFA that I do think are ridiculous. I think suppressors, which I think they will be successful of removing suppressors. Um, Also, I think uh, barrel length on a shotgun. I think they will be successful in challenging, which I think that's stupid. Um, will they be successful in automatic weapons? I don't know.
Yeah, and that's the thing is like I don't have a problem with somebody owning a I if look, if you're gonna do something criminal with a fully automatic weapon, you're gonna go get a fully automatic weapon and do
Mhm.
it. You're just going to. Uh, and this is not an argument for well, why have any laws at all then? Because if you're gonna murder whether it's against the law or not. That's not what I'm saying. The reality is that criminals do criminal things. Things like the NFA criminalize people who haven't done anything criminal. And the vast majority of people who want firearms, like you ask any military vet whether or not he really wants a fully automatic weapon for personal carry or personal defense, most of them are going to go, nah, not really. Like the which generation of the M16 are we on now? I mean, we had A1, A2, and that's what are we
A4
at?
was the last one before we
The
switched to the
A4.
M4.
So, and the M4 is just the
Functionality.
carbine. Yeah, is just functionally it's an M16 in carbine form, right?
Mhm. But they've
Yeah.
changed other things like the barrel. You used to have the the stock that would or the
Mhm.
it was a heat yeah, it was a heat shield on the
Yeah.
front of the weapon.
Yeah.
Now they actually put a rail system so you can hook things to it.
Yeah. So I mean, they've actually made them look more like what the AR-15 platforms you can buy look like,
Mhm.
um, which is a switch because normally it's military influencing the look of private weaponry, and private weaponry started to actually influence the look of military weaponry as we went on. But most military people are going to tell you, like, I don't need a fully automatic weapon to be effective. In fact,
Mhm.
most people
Yep.
are far more effective when they're not fully automatic. The question isn't whether or not you need it. The question is whether or not anybody should have the right to restrict it. And a fully automatic weapon is no more or no less dangerous than a semi-auto or a burst setting. And somebody who's really intent on doing damage isn't going to be firing on full auto. They're going to be taking measured shots is what they're going to do.
Just like people who don't like the AR-15, the AR-15, the the round on the AR-15 is about as big as the eraser of this pencil.
Right.
Okay, not very big. But if you were to use a M1 Garand, which is a 30-06 round, that is significantly larger and does significantly more damage.
Yeah, this is that's an
Yep.
M16 right there. It's also an ink pen.
Very small, but some little hole.
Yeah.
It's a little hole, little exit hole.
It's a bolt action ink pen. But um like sniper rifles, most of them aren't even semi-auto.
Yeah.
Most sniper rifles are bolt action. Um and sniper rifles are very effective at doing what they're designed to do. Take down large game animals like elk.
Mhm.
That's what they're designed for. That's it. um do you see the NFA kind of I don't know, the way I look at something. So last year we had the court struck down the Chevron doctrine, which,
Mhm.
you know, was this is not tied to the NFA, but the 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 Chevron doctrine was kind of this decision that was created through the courts and through the executive branch that basically allowed executive branch departments of the federal government the ability to criminalize things without having to go through the the legislative process. But it
Mhm.
also did something else. It also then not only did it give the executive branch the ability to criminalize things, it also gave these executive branch departments the ability to charge you, to inspect you for what they've criminalized.
Yep.
And it sounds silly, but I think the case that ended up taking Chevron doctrine down was the U.S. Department of Agriculture would send inspectors out to fishing boats,
Yep.
and they would put these inspectors on the fishing boats, and then they would charge the fishing boats for being inspected, and they had to pay the hourly rate of the inspector, who was also being paid by the federal government. So they didn't have to have a warrant. They didn't have to have probable cause. They just could, because you were a business engaged in whatever, in this case, fishing boats off the East
Mhm.
Coast, you were sometimes paying out of pocket far more money than you were taking in on the day you were being inspected. And sometimes they would inspect you 3, 4 days in a row.
Mhm.
So some of these cases, they were these private fishing boats, these little guys out catching tuna or lobster pots or whatever, were paying out thousands of dollars over the course of a day to 2 days to be inspected just to make sure you weren't violating stuff that wasn't criminal in the first place. It was just a rule by this agency. I look at the NFA and I feel like my take on the NFA is it's granted a lot more power to agencies like the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms
Mhm.
than what those agencies should. First of all, the BATF is an unconstitutional agency along with the FBI.
agree.
There should be no federal level law enforcement. But anyway, so the BATF is really a result of the NFA. And then the NFA then has allowed, and that's the National Firearms Act, if people are still wondering, the NFA has allowed the BATF to just make decisions like, oh, by the way, we've decided that suppressors, what most people call silencers, they're illegal, they're unlawful because they allow people to commit crimes without anybody knowing. Like, well, first of all, if you've ever heard of suppressor, they're not what people make them out to be. Two, bump stocks. Bump stocks are just a way of getting around bans
Hi,
on fully
Georgie's mom.
automatic weapons. Oh, Georgie. Oh,
Georgie's
I don't know
mom's
if
here.
I don't know
We
if
can
she's
tell
ever.
on her now.
Oh, trust me, I'm pretty sure she knows. But so what the NFA has done is it has allowed an agency that does not answer really to a legislative body the ability to criminalize things and make, to violate people's constitutionally enshrined rights. And up until recently, it's always been backed by the courts. Well, hey, this act has been passed into law, therefore it's legal. And anything that flows from it is legal because it's flowing from a decision that the courts have said the NFA is lawful or constitutional. And that's why I'm a little concerned for even the direction of a so-called or allegedly referred to Supreme Court being conservative. I mean, if you look at two of the last three, let's look at Trump's two picks for the Supreme Court. Well, I mean, even Roberts, I mean, they're not conservatives. Amy Coney Barrett's not conservative. Kavanaugh is not conservative, and Roberts is definitely not a conservative. So that really leaves us with
Gorsuch, Alito,
and Alito and Thomas, and
a lot of that is because when Republicans would nominate people to the Supreme Court, the only thing they cared about was abortion. And that's how you got so many of these bad picks. The good thing is now abortion's off the table. Now, hopefully, like if Thomas retires, we can actually start looking at these judges. How have they ruled on so many other cases?
Right. Well, see, that's the thing is, I don't know that Thomas retiring is what we want right now. The problem is we don't want him to die when the Democrat is elected in 2028. And folks, that's just right now the way our country is swinging. The pendulum has reached its apex, folks. If you're paying any attention to the tone and the tenor of the country right now, the Marxists are gaining a lot of ground. I mean, they just basically locked up the mayoral office in the largest city in the United States. And that does not bode well for the country as a whole. But if Thomas makes it into the next administration and then dies in office, the only advantage to him retiring and appointing somebody new now is that we'd have to really trust Trump to actually make a good, strong Second Amendment, natural rights, constitutional originalist pick. And I don't know if there's another Thomas out there right now. I really don't. I
I
don't.
actually I really like what's his name, and he's a Ninth Circuit judge, and he's the one that did the video dissent on where he literally showed his guns and talked about why he believed. Um, I believe the case was about uh, what was it? The uh, where you pull the trigger
I don't know.
multiple
You keep
times.
doing this. Like I don't. You're trying to
Yeah. No,
semi-automatic.
it's the attachment that you could get to turn a semi-automatic into an automatic.
Oh,
Uh,
the
pump
forward reset.
stocks. Yeah, it
Pump
was
stocks.
about pump
Okay. I didn't
stocks,
know if
and
you
he
meant
was
forward
showing
reset or pump stock.
how
Yeah.
the functionality of the weapon isn't changed by adding things to it.
Right.
And he did like first time we ever had a federal judge give a dissent in video form, and I think that was really a great way. And I think and the court's been slow to adopt digital media. But I think that was a great way to start showing that no, this is very forward thinking in terms of how our country should run. And I think he put himself on the short list by doing that.
I hope. I hope so. I mean, if you really think about it too, just like how apropos that is to have a judge use a video format to talk about firearms. And the number one argument that we hear from the anti-gun left and even the anti-gun right, because there are people do not understand there are right wingers who are very adamant about controlling
Mhm.
firearms. They won't talk about it in the same terminology. They always talk about it in keeping the guns out of the hands of criminals. And they talk about it in the respect of we got to keep homes safe. We got you don't want psychotic people having firearms, and that's why we've ended up with really bad criminal laws about firearms is because the left and the right have gotten together and agreed on a lot of
Mhm.
this stuff. And so when you think about the natural right of people to free speech and defend themselves from tyrannical government and from violent criminals, you just had a judge use technology that the founding fathers could never have foreseen to talk about a piece of technology that the founding fathers could never foresee. And the vast majority of anti-gun people will never argue that. And I shouldn't even say never because now they are starting to talk about limiting technology to keep people from using it in a way that would be beneficial to them. So it's it's a very strange place that we find ourselves. You do not see anybody on the left arguing that not only should you not be able to have anything other than a musket, you should only be able to communicate via print media that is done by a hand cranked printing press that you have to keep in your basement. Like they, no one argues that. But yeah, so I think that's really cool that a judge, whether it was intentional or not, he really displayed how technology has changed in all of these realities. I just don't want to see how technology could advance to make violations of the Third Amendment
Mhm.
possible. Could you could you imagine police all of a sudden being able to use your house as an Airbnb against your
I
will?
mean, we've gotten close to that with
We are here, folks, and we are
that
staying,
was some of the good
whether you like it or
some
not.
of the best arguments against Obamacare. Like this is the federal government compelling me to purchase something for
Yeah.
use inside my home, essentially.
You think that's a Third Amendment violation?
Well, they showed that as a Third Amendment. They were like, "Look, how is this any? You're compelling someone in the
Hmm.
privacy of their own home to do something. How is that much different than telling them you're going to quarter soldiers?"
Yeah, see, I see that more of a freedom of association and due process situation.
No, I agree with you, but they just rarely do you ever see the Third Amendment invoked in any type of legal briefs, and I did see it then, and I was like, "Wow, this is actually quite interesting." Um, with the most times when the government compels you for things like insurance, it's normally your local or state governments, um, which we could,
Raises its own concerns. Yeah.
yeah, and we could also argue that they're the ones who have that ability due to the 10th Amendment.
Right. Which, in there again, for people, here we go. This is where I'm going to upset people. The 10th Amendment doesn't mean anything anymore because we now have the 14th Amendment. And for lack of better terminology, as much as there is good stuff in the 14th Amendment, the 14th Amendment destroyed the original Constitution and all of the amendments prior to it. Because, and people get so mad at me when I say this, the federal Constitution was never intended to apply to the individual sovereign states. The federal Constitution and the Bill of Rights, especially the first 10 amendments, or not especially, but the first 10 amendments were only ever meant to apply to the federal government. And the 14th Amendment was the federal government looking at the sovereign states and saying, you are no longer in charge, we are, and now you have to do what we tell you as it regards all of these things. And so, will I make a First Amendment argument in a state court if somebody tries to arrest me for standing on the street corner and handing out anti-government literature? Absolutely. If I'm advocating that we completely overturn the governing powers of my local municipality, county, or state, the First Amendment protects me in doing that. I have a right to call for the overthrow of my government. You literally do. You have a right to call for that. Without having the right to call for that, then you have no rights. Will I make that argument now? Yeah, because the federal government has put me in a position where I have to argue about what the 14th Amendment has required be applied to the individual sovereign states. The problem with the 14th Amendment is it took the script and flipped it so that the federal government became the superior power. And the states were never intended to be submissive to the federal government. They were always intended to be superior to the federal government because the states created the federal government to operate for one reason and one reason only. Well, two reasons. International affairs and defense from international threat. That's one area. Those two things go hand in hand. And then the other one was to guarantee the free flow of commerce in the states. That's it. They were never intended to have any other power than that. The 14th Amendment flipped it and put the federal government in charge of the states, saying, now you have to do what we say. So before we move on to the topic that you had brought up about the story I've been covering, I want to ask, and we don't have a way of doing a poll in the chat. So if anybody's interested in answering this question,
I think we do on Facebook or on YouTube, don't we? Let me say.
Well, I think you actually have to be on YouTube and put it in, and not. I don't think you can do it on StreamYard.
No, I've got my YouTube control room up.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
A friend of mine, some of you will know her because Skipper and I have talked about her a lot. My friend Lisa Hanson, Patriot Princess well, she's not in Minnesota anymore. I can't understand why. She's the one that was thrown in prison. She was imprisoned for keeping her business open in 2020 and 2021. She was thrown in prison for keeping her business open during the scamdemic. She sent me a video and asked me to watch it. It's a story that's talking about a private community. I think it's in Arkansas that is only open to white Christians. That's it. And not only white Christians, but they have to agree with the theological positions of the community. They are going to have their own fire department. They're going to have their own security. They're going to have their own bylaws. They're going to have their own schools. They're going to have their own businesses. And there are people trying to bring the federal government and the state government against this community, saying that they do not have a right to exist and that it violates anti-discrimination laws and anti-hate laws and all of this stuff. And so I want to know from the chat if, one, that's wrong and should not exist. Two, they have every right to exist and live however they want in a private community. Or three, why would we allow that to exist in the United States at all, period? Or four, hey, they can do what they want as long as they're not doing it with taxpayer dollars. Skipper froze. He's like, how do I type that in there?
Well, I've got it up. Or at least the first question I've got up. Is this community considered discrimination and wrong? Yes or no?
Oh, yes or no. And then if you want to elaborate on your yes or your no, or I don't know, feel free to do so in chat. I just want to see how the Veterination people respond to that.
Did I see where YouTube is thinking making all creators put their real ID on their channel? And I think that's a bad idea because others will have their address then. So I don't think you should. I think YouTube should have their ID. Absolutely. I think YouTube should have the ID of every content creator. Should it be public? No.
No, there's no, there should. I don't like the real ID system in the first place. I think it is nothing more than a passport.
Well,
that they will use to control your movement across the
streamers
United States.
already have a problem of not doxing but swatting. That will only get worse if you're making people put up an ID with their address on it.
Yeah. To me, I don't fly, and like if I really need to, I suppose I can go and get a passport, but I don't fly, and right now we don't have any plan. We don't have the money to travel internationally, so so real ID for me is
because you're not making disability claims.
That's Skipper's pitch to get TC involved in the VA, which will only get TC arrested. Because I will go in with the camera the very first time. So, that's why he wants to do it. He wants the content. That's all that is. So I have a problem with Real ID just because I know it's going to ultimately be used as a passport system in the United States. That's all they're going to do. It's going to become an issue where they're going to require that you have it to travel from state to state to state. And that to me is an absolute violation of your natural rights to travel. So
I think
a driver's license is fine.
I have no problem with it, but my concealed carry permit should be on my ID. And just like how they have to accept my driver's license, they should have to accept my concealed carry.
I believe in national reciprocity. So
so we disagree, but the reasons why we disagree, we both can agree
on. Mine's far more likely to come true than yours.
I mean, I could see reciprocity passing. I can see it.
No, because you're gonna it will have to become an amendment, and you're not going to get the states to agree to it.
Oh, I think it can be a bill. I don't see anything that would require it to be an amendment. I would love it to be an amendment. It just would be hard to pass.
I just don't. Yeah, somebody will challenge it.
I think they'll challenge it, but
I mean,
it's not unconstitutional.
I agree with you, just because I just don't think there should be any restrictions on whether or not anybody should be able to own a firearm. In fact, I even think felons should be able to get their firearms back when they've served their time. So that's my idea.
I don't think immediately I would be okay with, hey, no, you got to wait a couple years and then you could apply. I'd have no problem with that. show that you're no longer a danger to society.
Yeah, I that's what I mean. You know, having served your time, and you know, but so anyway, you asked me about this case I've been covering, and we're gonna need everybody's help on
And I did
this.
push this to a couple journalists. I did it about 6 months ago, and I'll do it again.
Not on this one. This you didn't do 6 months ago, because this one just happened in April.
Yeah, it was in April.
Yeah, that's not been
Okay,
6
well.
months.
4 months.
Okay, well, I'll give you the about 6 months ago. That's like, how big are you? About
I'll
6.
tell the audience I did talk to Megan Fox about it. I talked to
Oh, I'd love for Megan to pick up on
Yeah,
this.
I did talk to a couple other Megan was like,
and-
"I'm kinda busy to pick up another case," and I totally understand that, which she is.
No, yep, totally, yep, get it. She's got a lot on her plate. But so some of you, we've talked about it just in the periphery here on the show. If you follow me at all, if you want to know even more, would love for you to come over and watch the videos that I've been doing over the last few months about this story. But back on April 9th of this year, we had yet again, in comparison to the trooper that killed Olivia Flores last year in Minnesota, May 18th of last year, Trooper Shane Roper was doing 84 miles an hour on a surface street. So in other words, he wasn't on an interstate or a highway. He was just on a community road in Rochester, Minnesota, allegedly following or looking for a speeder doing 84 miles an hour, no lights, no sirens, blew through an intersection, made collided with a vehicle that was turning, and ended up killing an 18-year-old girl just weeks away from her graduation. He has still not gone to trial on that case. I broke the news 24 hours before any of the other mainstream media outlets that this guy had a history of discipline for reckless endangerment with his speed. And that day that accident, Trooper Roper had several other incidents where he was doing 100 or plus more miles an hour, just driving around, screwing around. Wasn't really doing anything. So now you fast forward a year, April 9th of 2025. A young man, 17 years old, driving home from prom preparation events that he was doing with his younger brother and a friend, heading down the highway, minding his own business. A wrong way driver, 81 years old, turned to get off the road and turned in front of Blake. His name is Blake Mosted, turned, and there was a very minor fender bender that resulted in like a tiny scratch to one of the drivers or one of the passengers. So Blake and his brother Braxton got out like a good Samaritan to check on the other driver to see that he was okay. And unbeknownst to them, when they got out of the car to go check on him, which is what most of us would do. I don't know, Skipper, that's what we do, right? Most of us get out of the vehicle. Hey, I've been in an accident. Let's go make sure everybody's
Especially in
okay.
Minnesota.
Yeah, we're stupid. We're just like, Minnesota nice is a thing, but it's also, just mostly we're getting out to be passive aggressive about how it was your fault.
If you want to meet new friends, you should act like you're broken down in Minnesota.
Yeah, they'll stop. Yeah. And so they got out to check on this wrong way driver. What they didn't know was that multiple people had called in the wrong way driver to 911. Minnesota State Patrol had dispatched a trooper. His name is Ryan Moser. And this took place in Sherburne County, Minnesota. They dispatched this trooper, and this trooper is traveling down the highway to find a wrong way driver ended up crashing into the original accident scene. Braxton, the younger brother, looks at Blake, the driver, the 17-year-old, and says, "Hey, the cops are here already." But he's not going to be able to stop. He's going way too fast. Trooper Moser makes contact with, collides with the wrong way driver's vehicle, ends up also hitting Braxton and Blake, crushes Blake's body, crushes both his legs, and severs his spinal cord at the C2 or the C3 vertebrae, paralyzing him from the neck down. The night of the accident, Sherburne County Sheriff's Office agreed to do the investigation because the state patrol can't really investigate itself. We all know when law enforcement investigates, anytime the government investigates itself, they always find themselves as having done nothing wrong. We didn't do nothing wrong. The night that he agreed to take over the investigation, Sherburne County Sheriff Joel Brott made this statement before the investigation even started. The trooper was in a bad spot and could not avoid the accident. He said that the night of the accident. For 3 months, no one made contact with the family of the victims at all. No one. No one knew what was going on. They had to hire an attorney to get any information at all. After the sheriff's office concluded its investigation, they turned it over to the Sherburne County Attorney's Office, who looked at it for about 2 weeks and said, "Oh, we've got a conflict of interest." Now, think about this. The County Attorney's Office said there's a conflict of interest. The sheriff, I don't know how the County Attorney's Office can have a conflict of interest in deciding whether or not to prosecute this case. And the reason this is important is because there's a reality. Minnesota state statute requires that law enforcement, any emergency vehicle, when responding to an emergency, has to do several things. They have to have lights to the front and back, for law enforcement especially, and sirens. And they have to also, no matter how bad the emergency is, they have to drive in a way that is keeping in mind the safety and security and the well-being of the general public. So in other words, just because you're responding to an emergency and you have lights and sirens on doesn't mean you can go, and that's Minnesota State Statute 169.17, doesn't mean you can go as fast as you want and drive like an asshole. So there is a reality in which the investigation was looking to see who was going to be charged for this crime. So they end up turning the investigation and charging decision over to another county, Dakota County Attorney's Office. The Dakota County Attorney's Office never makes contact with the family. The family has to go through their attorney to try and reach out to the Dakota County Attorney's Office. Just about 2 weeks ago, the Dakota County Attorney's Office announced that they are not going to be charging the trooper. Instead, they're charging the 81-year-old man with all of it. They're charging the 81-year-old man with 8 counts.
Absolutely ridiculous.
And one of their arguments is that had he not been driving the wrong way, the accident would have never happened and the trooper would not have had to worry about responding. And then they said because he admitted to taking Tradnazone as a prescribed medication, he was under the influence. So they were also going to charge him with driving under the influence of a controlled substance. Unbeknownst to us, the 81-year-old man, Dale, to the best that I can find out to ascertain, was put in a elderly care facility after the accident. On the 25th, so a week, let's say a little over a week ago, he died. Dale died, 81 years old. He died in the care facility. Never went to court. Now, I don't care who you are. There's no way in the world that you can say that the last 3 months did not play a part in this gentleman's declining health. Then to find out that you're going to be charged with 8 counts that are going to be enough to put you in prison for the rest of your natural life. I just don't see how that didn't weigh on him. And I'm not saying he didn't have other medical issues, but there's no way in the world that did not weigh on him. And I feel so bad for his family, because this young man, this older gentleman, died with these charges hanging over his head. But what we have found out subsequent to that is that this trooper was doing well over 100 miles an hour all the way down the highway looking for this wrong way driver when he hit and paralyzed Blake. Folks, I want you to think about that. 100 plus miles an hour going down a rural highway, which, according to everybody who knows that stretch of road, it's straight and it's flat and it's not curvy. They don't live where I live in Minnesota. I live in an area where you couldn't do 100 miles an hour down the highway if you wanted to, because of all of the hills and the curves and the valleys and everything that we have to go through in this area. This area where he is, this road is straight for miles. And he was doing 100 plus miles an hour on a report. On a report that there was somebody driving the wrong way. Now, does that sound like it's in keeping with driving in a way that you're showing concern for the well-being of other people on the highway? I mean, I don't know, Skipper, 100 miles an hour, people, a lot of people have never gone that fast. 100 plus miles an hour. How safe is that for anybody on a highway?
If you're not in a vehicle with a roll cage, not very safe.
And yeah, so it's great for the trooper, because, he's probably gonna, and if you guys have seen the videos I did of the deputy from Kandiyohi County who last year got drunk on duty and wrecked his car, his squad car. If you're the way that deputy wrecked his car and the way this trooper wrecked his squad at 100 plus miles an hour, yeah, you're more likely to survive, because those cars are designed to take that kind of damage. But the human body is not designed to take that kind of damage. So the reports are that he was doing over 100 miles an hour when he caused this second accident. And they have decided they're not going to charge him for anything, which has now made it very difficult for the family to get any kind of justice, because the person who they did decide to charge is now dead, which means he doesn't have to go to court, which means they don't ever have to show evidence.
Now, and
go ahead.
Here's what I would ask everyone. Do you think this cop is going to do it again?
Right. And I can guarantee you that if he was driving that fast that night to a wrong way driver, he's done it multiple times before. I guarantee it. I have video on my phone right now of a state patrol officer just this week where I live. He pulled by me. He looked me in the eye, made eye contact, waved, and smiled as he went by me. Skipper knows this story. We were talking about it the other day. He knew who I was. That's part of the problem. They know who I am now. But he knew he was speeding. So, and they drive like that when they have emergencies. They drive that way because they get away with it when they don't have emergencies, and no one can do anything about it. You can call in and you can complain and say, hey, I saw a trooper violating the state statutes as it regards speed and due care and distracted driving, and they won't do anything. And that's why Trooper Shane Roper in May of 2024 was comfortable driving the way he was driving and ended up killing a young lady. And now we have Trooper Ryan Moser in April of 2025 doing the exact same thing, almost killing a car full of people. and now faces no charges because a prosecutor has decided he was just doing his job, and the 81-year-old driver, Dale, is all to blame for this. I want everybody to think about this because we need your help. We need your help. We need people to reach out to the Dakota County Attorney's Office and the Minnesota State Patrol headquarters, to Colonel Christine Begovich. We need people to demand that he be fired, and we need the Dakota County Attorney's Office to change their mind on this charging decision. Skipper's going to say
I
something.
was just going to say there's no bigger group that fights accountability more than the policemen's union.
Law enforcement unions are a catch-22. The way they're designed, they have to defend the good cops and the bad cops. And I know some of the people watching go, did TC just say good cops? Because we've heard him, I think the percentage of good cops is very minuscule. I just want to I'm full transparency because I understand the career field. I know how these people are. The percentage of people that are actually good cops is very small. It's actually a very small percentage. But they're required to defend the good and the bad because that's what they're there for. The problem is they spend less time defending good cops who get in trouble for doing the right thing than they spend defending bad cops who are doing the wrong thing. And if that had been any of you driving, if that had been Skipper driving or me driving, and we were doing 100 plus miles an hour down the road, if we were doing 75 and a 65 down the road, and we ran into another accident and we paralyzed somebody, or God forbid, we killed somebody, we would be charged. We would be charged. It would not matter. My wife is having a baby. I just got word that my son was hurt in a car accident, and they're going to be like, it doesn't matter what your reasoning is. You have a duty to not hurt other people. And so we really need your help, folks. I will give it to Skipper to put in the description of the video on Rumble and YouTube. We do need the Dakota County Sheriff's Office or County Attorney's Office to change their minds on this. We need them to look at this again or hand it off to another county attorney. Trooper Ryan Moser is guilty in this. It is clear he's guilty. 100 plus miles an hour when he ran into this roadside accident.
I do have an update on the poll about the white Christian community. Is that community considered discrimination and wrong? 11 votes, 55% said yes, 45% said no. So very divided.
So 55% of the people believe it's basically unlawful for them to do that. It's interesting. I would be interested sometime to explore that with somebody who thinks it is wrong, and why. Now, I can understand it from an ethical or moral perspective, but should the government have the ability to legislate that? Because that's what people are wanting them. They want this community shut down by the government. Think about that.
I don't think the government should be able to shut it down, but if I lived in that community and said, hey, I'm going to sell my property to a black pagan, I don't think the government should also be like, nope, they can do that.
Or a black Christian.
Yeah.
I want everybody to understand this is a fully private community. It's privately purchased land, privately funded, no tax dollars are going to it. They're doing all of this on their own. So should the government be able to stop them? So the 55% who say yes, the government should be able to stop them, and it's wrong. Think about the First Amendment. It's not just about speech. It's about freedom of association. Do you want the government to tell you who you can and cannot hang out with and who you choose to spend your time with? Well, I for Forever House Living, we know it's not a true representation, but it's a representation of the people that responded to the poll. So it's a split between the people. So the 45 that said, yeah, they should be allowed to do it, and the 55% said they should not be allowed to. Who do you want controlling that? So, but yeah, we really need your help because this trooper should be charged, and ultimately he deserves his day in court. But he should be charged. He should have to go to court. He should have to go to court because what he did was reckless endangerment at the best, if not. Which one of the other charges is criminal vehicular assault. I think it was what it was. Criminal vehicular assault is what they charged the 81-year-old who was driving the wrong way that caused the first accident. The trooper caused the second accident, and it was negligence and disregard for due care in violation of the Minnesota state statute. So the family is broken over this. They feel terrible for the family of the wrong way driver. They have no animosity towards him at all. But they have been neglected by the system. And it's not just law enforcement. The entire criminal injustice system, especially in the state of Minnesota, is stacked against we the people. And I think you're going to start seeing that not just left-wingers, but center-right and right-wingers are starting to wake up to the reality that the criminal justice system is not watching out for we the people. Mm-hmm. It's watching out for the political class and for the public sector class is mostly what they're doing. You know, Skipper lives in a state where cops arrested people for paddleboarding during COVID.
Yep.
So
they
don't want to spread COVID to the ocean.
They filled in skateboard parks with sand. So yeah, we could really use your help, and I know I talk about it on my channel, but you know, I asked Skipper if we could talk about it today because Skipper's got 6,000 some subscribers over here to my 4,400 and some. So we could use your help because this family deserves justice. Blake is fighting to have some sense of normalcy every day in his life and his family, but their lives are inalterably changed for the rest of their lives. And they have a right to demand some justice on this. Mm-hmm. And justice on this is the trooper being charged, not protected by the system. You don't get to say I was just doing my job. Even with that, the state should be paying the family because inherently, it was a state actor who caused the injury.
Oh, for
even
sure.
If you want to argue,
and there would have been a time,
even if you're arguing he didn't start the domino process, it doesn't matter. There was a state employee in a state vehicle involved.
Right. And once again, if that had been anybody else at all, they would have been charged. Probably on the spot. They probably would have been charged on the spot. An investigation like that should never have taken 3 months, let alone 3+ months before they get a charging decision and release any data at all. They would have known how fast the guy was going, and that would have been released to the public immediately. So, Skipper, thanks for coming back. I didn't know if you were ever going to come back from your vacation.
That's the longest vacation I've taken in a while.
We missed a show while you were gone.
We did.
But yeah, we should have done it last week, but Skipper was just getting back, so we decided to do it this week. So now we might have to start doing it on a weekly basis because we're
Well, and we have to decide on the day for Veteran Nation Unexplained.
Well, yeah, we may end up recording the first few episodes of that. We are, so we've got some good news, and we're not going to go too deep into it, but Kahanu is moving again, and he may or may not be moving into some place he can call his own, and he is going to be setting up a studio that isn't his phone. We've told him no more using your phone when you never restart it. Will I survive without you while you are on the cruise? Oh, not only will I survive without you, I'm going to do a show about you while you're on the cruise. And I'm going to do it on Vet Nation.
That's okay. I'm good with that. The roast of Skipper.
Yes, absolutely. It's just me. So now Kahanu's going on the cruise, I heard.
Is he for sure?
Well, he said his wife told him he should go, which I told him, are you sure you, when your wife tells you should go, are you sure you should? That's no, go ahead and go. Oh no, go ahead. I want you to. Yeah, I really want you to go on a cruise. That's the best thing for you to do right now. It's a trap. It's always a trap. Always a trap.
Would you like to know
Georgie's? I didn't agree to Kahanu going. Nobody asked you if you agreed, Georgie. You don't get to decide that. You got anything coming up, Skipper?
Nothing for sure. A lot of things in the pipeline that are kind of like things I'm working on. Nothing solid.
We getting our happy ending coffee spot?
I'm waiting to hear back. We're gonna go walk the property.
Those that don't know, Skipper's thinking about opening a coffee place where you can get a happy ending.
I don't know about that. That would be a bit gross.
Just like some cream.
I watched a reel this morning on Facebook of a guy coming out of a hair salon that was called Blow and Go, and he's walking out and he's putting his pants, like button them up, and goes, "It was actually a hair salon."
I don't need your permission to do a show about Mikey. And I don't call him Mikey. I call him Skipper. You always pick on the ranked guy when he's not in the room. But I also pick on him when he is in the room.
So it's all good. It's fair.
So yeah, it's fair. But yeah, I've got a show this afternoon, 3:30 Central Time. I have a young man coming on. Oh, I don't know how young he is, but I got a guy coming on from here in Minnesota that was able to shut down the city council of New Prague, Minnesota, without any public input, approved a $10.8 million palace for the police department. We're talking about a town of 8,000 people, and they were going to spend $10.8 million.
Now I know
for a new
in
building
California that
for
would
their
be
police
against the law.
department. Well, and that was the thing, is this guy's he's a small L local libertarian activist, and he was able to go in and raise enough of a kerfuffle that he got it stopped.
Nice.
So we're going to be talking about his activism and his ability to intercede on the behalf of the people in his community. And he's turned a lot of people in New Prague to his way of thinking, just from handling this the way he did. And that's why I talk so much about local activism. Like, yeah, I get it. We all have, everybody wants to vote for their guy as president. They want Biden or they want Trump. They want Harris or they want Trump, or they want, whoever it is. Like, oh, it's my guy. That doesn't even look like me.
Right? I was like,
it's even the sign in the back doesn't even look like my sign. The only thing that looks like it is the white piece of paper and the cord. That's it. It doesn't look like me at all. That's not even uncanny. It's just weird.
I was trying to think who it does look like, though.
Um,
It looks like there's an actor, and I'm trying to think.
I know who you're
Trying to
thinking
think.
of because I was thinking the same thing. But
It kind of like a more masculine John Oliver.
I know Wayfish models that are more masculine than John Oliver. So
Oh yeah, he is not a masculine dude at all.
yeah, he's also soon to be unemployed. So
They have killed
along with
late night.
the girls from The View, their show's about into suspension. So, but yeah. Anyway, so I got that show going on this afternoon, and I'm going to be clipping some stuff out from my conversation with former NBA player Royce White, turned Republican activist, political candidate, bull in a china shop. And he and I have had some arguments over the last year and a half, and he actually showed up to an invite to talk a little bit about our differences. And he has a tendency to call me a neocon every single time I disagree with him on something. And I'm like, neocon? Retarded liberal. I'm like, me? Like, just because I disagree with you on something doesn't make me a retarded liberal or a neocon. That's very strange. So, but we actually ended up having a 2-hour conversation the other night. So after he showed up, and it went a lot better for me than I think he thought it was going to go. But yeah, so I'm going to probably clip some of that out, and I'm going to put up the video of the trooper. I don't know, either today or tomorrow, but I'm going to make dinner today too. So
Nice.
Still got to teach Skipper how to cook.
I will be hopefully working today. I'm starting on my puppet build.
Oh, you're building a puppet?
Yeah, the homeless.
Are you
veteran
turning
puppet.
Lacey? Are you turning Lacey into a puppet?
No, she'll
You
be there.
can just put
But
your
I'm
hand.
building a homeless veteran puppet for
You can
Man
just
on the
put your
Street
hand
video.
up. You can just put your hand up or bottom. I mean, that's what it's designed for.
But yeah, I wouldn't expect that puppet to be done anytime soon, though, folks. So don't get too excited. It's gonna take Skipper a while. Crafting is not my strong suit.
You should have Mama Coop build it for you. She's a crafter. So we are looking to hire a glass blower. I'll explain that one some other time. But Skipper, you should get us out of here.
All right,
before this devolves further.
Make sure you. I'll give 2 plugs. Make sure you subscribe to Mama Coop. She's getting close to the 1,000 that she needs to monetize. So make sure you go over to Mama Coop and subscribe. Also, make sure you subscribe to Minnesota Black Robe Regiment. I'll put the link right there in the chat.
And AVA.
Yeah, and AVA. Let me pull his up. There we go. We'll get his up there. So then you guys can subscribe to AVA as well. AVA is up there. He's got 851.
If you haven't subscribed to AVA or me yet, I don't know what you're doing.
Right? We're all just good veterans. Just doing
our veteran
YouTube
thing.
Running our stuff.
Yeah, AVA's story is really compelling, so make sure you check him out.
It is. And he's making some progress. He's got his attorney. But we're going to get out of
Gonna
here,
be it.
folks.
Yep.
Thank you for joining us on this Sunday.
Yeah, for sure.
You got anything else?
Skipper. Nope.
Folks, we're going to get out of here. As always, thank you for being worth serving.